Today it is Saturday, December 29th. The year is 2018. So I'm about to try to complete this story. I doubt I'm going to be able to complete it all at this time. But I started talking about my coming out story, and this is part 3. For those of you who haven't seen the first 2 videos, go watch part 1 and part 2, then come back and watch this so you can get a better understanding. This is not my first time discussing some of this stuff. I'm going to go a little bit more detail this time around. It's just basically my coming out story. Coming out was a lifetime journey. It was not something that just up and happened. It was something that I known I was gay since preschool. So if you go back to watch video number part 1, part 2, and then come check this out. So now I'm going to talk about Adam. So Adam was one of the first guy I ever dated and had a relationship with. I was 18 years of age. I think I was 18. And Adam was 25, 26. Adam lived with his mother. And I didn't know this until much later on, but after we initially met. His mother had one of those E-Class. I remember she had an E-Class Mercedes-Benz that Adam would drive. And was it an E-Class, E250? I can't remember. It was maybe they weren't E-Classes at that point, but I can't remember. It was a really nice Mercedes-Benz. And he didn't work any place. Adam his mother was paying him to take care of her mother, his grandmother, who was very ill. So Adam stayed home and took care of his mother after he had several attempts to go to college, and that didn't work out. So his mother decided, since they were having so many difficulties with her mother, in nursing homes or whatever, Adam would stay home and take her, and that's what he did. He stayed at the house and he took care of his mother. They had a beautiful home in Cincinnati, Ohio. I can't remember where it was, but it was a really nice area, wealthy area. His mother was an executive at Procter & Gamble. That part I do remember. And when I met Adam, I just thought he was the most handsome, attractive, articulate, intelligent person. Looking back on it, he had issues. Drinking, maybe drugs at some point in time. He just had a lot of issues, and he was under a lot of pressure from his mother to do something with his life. He was still relatively young, in his 20s. But we met, and we hit it off, and we were just around each other every day. And when I look back on it, he was probably one of the most destructive individuals I ever met. Because instead of that man encouraging me to go to school, I was in my senior year of high school. Running around a 25-year-old man. He would encourage me to skip school and come out to the house where he was at, taking care of his grandmother. And like a really lump, I would do just that. Drive over there to go see him instead of going on finishing up my senior. Although it's hard to explain all this stuff. I guess I got to since I started the video. But I just thought Adam was this really nice person who was very articulate. Knew how to communicate very well. Because he went to private schools in Ohio. I remember that part of it. His mother really wanted him to really do something really great with his life. But higher education just didn't work out for him. For whatever reasons. And we would just hang around each other a lot. And party. When I mean by party, we would go to in Cincinnati. Ain't really nothing going on in Cincinnati, Ohio. But we would go to parties and clubs and bars and restaurants and just a lot of stuff that he wanted to go to. There was a club in Dayton, Ohio called 1470. We would go up there every weekend, Friday or Saturday. I can't remember which night was the big night there. There were other little clubs and bars in Ohio, Cincinnati. And we had to go out every weekend. every weekend this man was determined. I don't care if it was rain, hail, snow, sleet, whatever. We were at the bars. I guess that's just part of the lifestyle. And I was learning that. And the funny part is, no matter where we went, it was always the same group of people. Whether we were at 1470 Dayton, Ohio, or some club in Columbus, or we drove over to Indianapolis. I mean, it was just the same group of people. But at that time, I was very young, and it just excited to be in the mix and getting to know all these people. But when Adam would start drinking, he would become violent and very aggressive. And I was a little guy at that time. So not just aggressive, but very, what is the word I'm looking for? He would just carry on something terrible. Especially if he saw me talking or communicating with somebody else. Or it was fine for him to run around and talk to people and do all stuff, but he didn't want me talking to nobody. If I was talking to anybody, he'd come over and ask, who was that and why are you talking to him? But he would be running around talking to everybody. And so I would be forced to sit silently while he was Mr. Social Butterfly. But if I dared talk to anyone, it was all hell was breaking loose. And I think that's when, but me and him, something happened between he and I cannot remember what it was. And I stopped going over to his house. And he was calling, and we didn't have cell phones back then, in dinosaurs days. And at this point, I was living in Mount Airy. My sister Mia had came from Battle Creek, Michigan to Cincinnati because she was on her way to Atlanta. My mother already moved to Atlanta. So Mia was there with me, with her kids, and Adam showed up. Now, Mia didn't know who he was, and he knocked at the door, and she said, oh, Walter, somebody's here to see you. I'm downstairs. And it was Adam. So I said, oh, come on in, come downstairs. So we go downstairs, and we're down there talking. Little did I know, Mia listening. She's trying to figure out what's going on. She down there listening to our conversation down in the basement. We were going at it down there. And this is a 3-story townhouse. She's supposed to be up on the top floor. She down there, she in the staircase coming down there listening to see what we talking about. So in the midst of all this stuff, when he left there, Mia was like, well, who was that and what's going on? What was that all about? So I confessed to Mia that I was talking to him, and this is somebody that I was getting to be kind of in a relationship. I don't know. I wouldn't say, well, I don't know when I look back on to call it at that point. But anyway, I told Mia. And Mia couldn't wait to tell my mother. Mia told my mother. My mother was in Atlanta, Georgia. What was going on in Cincinnati. Let's just say it was a Friday night when Mia called Mama. Mama was there the next day. She drove, stopped everything she was doing and drove all the way to Atlanta, to Cincinnati from Atlanta. Next day I know Mama's at the house. And I'm not paying any attention. I'm just like, oh, Mama's in town. Because, she was kind of going back and forth between Atlanta and Cincinnati, moving stuff and handling business, finishing up some stuff that she was doing in Cincinnati. But this time around, Mama showed up and she said, I want to talk to you. And I'm like, okay, what's going on? Didn't dawn on me that Mia had ratted me out. So Mia had told Mama about Adam, this older guy, and that I was running around with. I want to say Adam was maybe 25, 26 years of age. And he looked older. So Mia was like, to be honest with you, he was about Mia's age. I'm 18. Mia was older than me, so he was about Mia's age or older than Mia. And so Mia decided she was going to tell my mother what was going on. So Mama, of course, raced back to Atlanta, to Cincinnati, Ohio, and that's when all hell broke loose that day. And we went at it in that townhouse about this situation, which my mother was getting secondhand from Mia about what my mama really wanted to meet Adam. And she wanted to know who he was. And there was just a lot of stuff going on. Because Mia just Mia had listened to a conversation, misconstrued the conversation, took things out of context, and told my mother this outrageous story. And Mom was standing there now wanting to. So I called Adam. Big mistake. And I asked him to come over because I said, listen, there's something going on over here and I really need your help with it. Do you mind coming over? He's like, what's going on? I said, well, my mother's here and my sister, and just come over because I need you to meet my mother. She wants to meet you. Now, Adam did come over. And when I look back on this scenario, I should not have done this. Because my mother, of course, whipped out the what? The Bible. And she decides that she's going to use this book of fake religion against me and Adam about our relationship, so to speak. And Adam was very articulate and very smart. And he was very savvy with his mouth. Now, mind you, he went to some of the best private schools in Cincinnati, Ohio, and although he had been kicked out of college because of his behavior, he was very smart. So they went at it. I just sat there watching. My mother and Adam go back and forth, Mia sitting there being quiet. And it just went on and on and on. And it was not a good thing. And I created this problem because I should not have called him and get him involved in this foolishness that my mother and Mia were conjuring up. And there was a lot of stuff that was revealed in that conversation. My mother wanted to know were we having sex, and of course Adam told her yes. And it just was explosive. Now, I am sitting there in shock at this conversation because basically I wasn't saying, but I do remember I was very sitting there at that table while Adam and my mother went back and forth and back and forth. Now, in retrospect, of course, it was a horrible thing to do. I should not have done that. But he was defending me and fighting for me. Even though he and I was having some serious problems, which could have... He wasn't a bad person. He had his demons. He was an alcoholic. He was a drinker. He did marijuana. He smoked. He had problems, issues. My mother could sense this, that he was not good. He wasn't a good person. And I remember my mother, when after all it took place, my mother was like, you don't need to be around him. But I was assuming my mother was saying all this because we were gay. But my mother was not articulate enough to figure out that he maybe was not the right person for me, is what she should have said. But instead, she pulled out that Bible, which misconstrued the whole situation, just made everything worse. But anyway, long story short, that's how I ended up in Atlanta. Because the apartment that I had in Cincinnati, Ohio was in Alberta Hampton's name, and she terminated the lease. So when she terminated that lease, I had to move. So I had two choices. I could have stayed in Cincinnati, Ohio, and stayed with my aunt. I'm trying to think what was going on. My uncle. My grandmother's brother lived there in a retirement building. You know those high rises where old folks stay at? I could stay there with him until I graduated school, which I was about to graduate anyway. Or I could have stayed over there with Adam, because Adam was saying come stay with him, but it was so far away from my high school. And on the other side of town, don't forget we were having problems. Problems that I really didn't want to be bothered with. So in the midst of all this crazy stuff that was going on, there was a lot of crazy shit. I had met some guys who were a little bit older than me, and I became friends with them before I even met Adam and all that stuff. And they began to reveal things to me about Adam that they knew, but they never told me until they found out what was going on. Until they understood the situation, what was going on with me possibly moving to Atlanta. And they encouraged me to leave Adam alone and move to Atlanta, not to continue this any further with him. And they told me many reasons why. And I was in shock, because I didn't know any of the stuff. The stuff that Adam had been running around Ohio doing before I met him. And why I met him. Because I remember, this was years ago, this was 1989. This is 2018, about to be 2019. This was 30 years ago, for real. So I remember some of the details, but I do remember the guys who they were telling me to just go on about my business and leave him alone. I was too young to be caught up in this man's foolishness. And then what sealed the deal was, one night me and Adam went out and it would turn into a huge battle. And I'll never forget this. I rode with Adam to 1470 in Dayton, in his mom's car to 1470 in Dayton, Ohio. I didn't drive my car. And, I had a little Renault back then. But I rode with him, and we got there, and something took place at that damn club where we got to fighting and arguing. This was a whole battle. It was a terrible. And we got into a physical fight. And I ended up asking one of my friends who went to high school, and one of the guys that had graduated high school from Aiken High School was there. He actually lives in Atlanta now. And he saw the whole thing going on, and I was like, look, I don't feel comfortable riding back to Cincinnati, which Dayton, Ohio was about an hour drive from Dayton to 1470. It was an hour drive from Cincinnati to Dayton, Ohio to get that club, and then it's 3, 4 in the morning. That's right. And then you drive back to Cincinnati. And so anyway, he suggested that I ride with him. And so I left the club that night with the guy who I went to high school with, who lives here in Ohio, in Atlanta now. And he took me home. He lived not too far from me. And that night I got home. I stayed, my bedroom was in the basement level of the townhouse, and Mia was up top. So I went into that, I came home, took my clothes off. It was a long night, I was exhausted. And I went to bed. While I was laying in bed, I looked up and I saw the door open. I forgot to lock the door. And I jumped up and slammed the door. And then somebody was knocking at the door, so I opened up the door and it was Adam. He was standing there crying. Now, I'd never seen this man crying before. And he was crying, and he was like, I know, he came in and we stood there and he said, I know you're going to Atlanta. He said, I know, I feel it in my heart. And I want you to go to Ohio, to Atlanta. I don't want you to stay in Cincinnati. And we sat there talking, and he was just crying, and he was just like, you need to leave here. I don't want you to be like me. I don't want you to be nothing. I remember all this. And he stood right there in that basement, crying and boo-hooing. And it touched me, because I was at a crossroads. I didn't know what to do. And he said, you need to leave. And don't come back to Cincinnati. So this was heartbreaking to me because I love this man. And I knew he loved me. But he didn't want me there anymore. Because he said it was a bad place. And it was for the gay community. But no better than Atlanta. Well, I take that back. Atlanta was just a step in the right direction. And that night, he spent the night over there. It was the only time he ever spent the night at that townhouse with me. And we had sex. Some of the most memorable sex I ever. It was like our final goodbye. He spent the night, and the next morning he left. A few days later, when Mom and them came with the U-Haul and packed up all the rest of the stuff in the townhouse, I had to finish up some stuff in Ohio at high school before I could leave, because I was graduating high school early, because I had finished everything. So I was there for a few more days. I wouldn't say, I can't remember if it was a day or a week. Maybe it was a short period of time. And then I ended up seeing Adam one last time. And then I hit the highway to Atlanta. And that was in January of 1989. In January of 1989, I got up early that morning, drove from Cincinnati, left my uncle's place. I was staying with him. Jumped in my car. This one had a brand new Chevrolet Geo. Just came out, had brand. I got rid of the Renault and had this new Chevy. And I drove that brand new car, little blue Geo, and it's a stick shift. I learned how to drive a stick. Adam had showed me how to drive a stick. I was like, good, I know how to drive a stick now. Drove that car from Cincinnati, Ohio to Atlanta. Got to Atlanta after a long drive, and the first exit I got off at was 10th Street in Midtown. I made a left and went to a gas station and called Mama and let her know I was there. Now, this is interesting because I got to the gas station at the corner of 10th and Spring Street. It was a Saturday night. I drove down that Saturday. No, Friday. It was a Friday. Because I had to take care of some down and get my last paycheck. Anyway, I ended up getting there that night. And I pulled into that gas station and used a payphone. We didn't have no cell phones back then. I used a payphone to let Mom know I was there and get final directions how to get to her house. I parked my car and I met the most friendliest guys. They were so helpful. And I was like, these guys are really helpful. Where are you from? Where are you going? Where are you? Little did I know that I was right up 2 blocks away from Loretta's nightclub, a gay club. And I met guys at that gas station that night that I still know today. Raynard is one of them. They came up to me, they were like vultures. And I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know they were gay. I just thought these are the friendliest people, Southern hospitality. Wow. They didn't look gay, they looked friendly, they looked like men, but they were very friendly. It's just so odd that the day I get to Atlanta, Georgia, literally I bumped into and got phone numbers. People give me their phone number and they call us and we gonna hang out and we gonna do. I'm like, wow, okay, cool. What is going on here? And that was my introduction to the gay life. Meeting those guys at that gas station, Raynard Starr. There was somebody else. Well, I can't think of that man's name. But they were at that gas station. I met these guys. They were a group of guys, and I met them all. And I got their phone numbers, and I called them. And I ended up meeting them that weekend. I wanted to say the next day. Well, I don't think it was the next day, though. But I ended up hanging out with them. And Loretta's was the club that everybody would go to was right up the street from where I got off to get directions on 10th Street there. I don't know how I ended up on 10th Street. One of the first exits when you got into the city of Atlanta was 10th Street. I got off there, got off 75, you coming in, got off at the, it was just weird when I look back on it. But this is going to conclude that part of the story. I'm going to try to come back and I'm talking about my introduction to Atlanta. Because it was so frightening to me for me to get off at that gas station and meet guys that I still know today. Still know and communicate with today. Over 30 years. It'll be 30 years next month. No, 31 years. Because I moved in 2009. I'm maybe 30 years. I'm in 1989. It's 2019 coming up in a few days. Anyway, if you like my videos, click like, share them with family members and friends. I'm going to try to do one more tonight. I ain't going to make no promises because I'm over here busy. We'll see. Today it is Saturday, December 29th. The year is 2018. I'm out of here and enjoy your evening.